Driving late at night was never something I really enjoyed. There were way too many variables that could go wrong. A headlight could go out, I get lost, maybe even fall asleep at the wheel. And worst of all, I could break down with no one else awake to help fix the car. But I had to work in a few hours and I had already taken off as much time as I could. Dealing with sick parents wasn't easy, especially when you had to help pay the medical bills. With the radio playing softly, I glared back at Sam, who lay sleeping in the back seat. With the radio playing softly, I spared a glance back at Sam, who lay sleeping in the back seat. His white-tipped ears relaxed against the side of his head, while his paws twitched as if someone were tickling his feet, but he was too tired to wake up. Turning my attention back to the road, I groaned as we approached the stoplight. Why did these have to be sprinkled through the long, empty expanse of a highway I didn't even know? I mean, it wasn't like anyone else was going to be awake at 2 o'clock in the morning. If they were likely just as irritated about stopping as I was. All I wanted was to be home, to get a little sleep before dragging myself out of bed for work. Easing down on the brake, we crawled to a stop. The front end of the car kissing a long white line you weren't supposed to cross. Sighing, I relaxed against my seat and took a moment to close my eyes. This was a mistake. Every part of me wanted to curl up and fall asleep on the back seat right next to Sam. He'd be warm and more than happy to share. He'd most likely spare me a few kisses to the cheek for good measure before using me as a pillow. Muttering a curse, I forced my eyes to open to find the light was still red and impossibly bright. A vibrant red glow reflected across the dark road, creating a radius of light that far surpassed normal stoplights, while intensifying with each second. Part of me knew it was impossible to have a street light that bright. There were regulations to follow for the safety of the drivers, but, well, there it was. Like an anglerfish luring in its unsuspecting prey, glowing intently in a realm of darkness. Change already, I grumbled, running out of patience. There was nothing worse than having to sit and wait at an unreasonably long stoplight. Can't believe this, Sam. Startling Sam awake as I uttered his name, he pulled his head out between the driver and passenger seat, ears swiveling about on high alert. I got the impression he could hear the hum of the strange red light. That the metal within was so intense it fried the wires encased in the black metal. Still, the light didn't change. My impatience turned into anger, and against my better judgment, I placed my truck in park before opening the driver's side door. Sam made a move to leap into my now empty seat when I stopped him. Stay back, I'm just having a look, okay buddy? Something could be broken. Giving Sam a pat on his head, I rolled the window down so he could still see me before shutting the door. He hated when I was out of sight, and I hoped this would soothe his nerves. Sure, a part of me knew I could just run the red light, but I had the worst luck a person could have. God would inevitably fall out the sky to ticket me should I attempt such a mildly illegal action in the middle of nowhere. Running a hand through my hair, I scanned the road for the electrical box. Maybe someone had hit it and rather than reporting the incident, drove off, leaving everything inside slightly askew. Only from what I could tell, there was no box. Rolling my eyes, I turned back to cross the section of the road. Walking out into the middle of it, I glanced left and right, thinking that maybe the box was on one of the other adjoining roads. Tucking my hands into my pockets, I fished around for my phone in hopes that the flashlight would illuminate something I missed. Fingers brushing against the device, I pulled it out of my pocket when a gust of wind ran its ice-cold fingers down my spine. It startled me enough to drop my phone, and it landed face down in the road, the flashlight mysteriously turning on to blind me with a red light. Wait, no, that can't be right. How could it be red? Blinking, I bent down to collect my phone when another gust of wind swept through the intersection. Along with it came the smell of a thick, stifling oxygen. I didn't realize there was a dense coating of fog drifting across the road until my phone's red light danced through the suffocating cloud. Great, now there's fog. How the hell am I supposed to drive in this? Returning my phone to my pocket, I turned curtly on my heel. If anything, I could get back in my truck and wait for the fog to clear out. It never lasted more than an hour in my experience. But as I turned around, I found myself face to face with more fog. The truck was nowhere to be found. At first, I figured I was too tired to have remembered my journey away from the truck. I had to have turned around in the wrong direction, but after completing a full circle, my heart started hammering in my chest. I couldn't see a thing beyond a few inches in front of me. Sam? My voice rang out in panic, one that he would have easily heard, and, as if on cue, he barked in reply. Good boy, Sam. Keep barking. He offered up a few more calls, much to my release. Listening intently, I did my best to walk towards them. One foot in front of the other was easy enough until even my feet disappeared in the fog. Swallowing tightly, I tried not to panic more, but the entire situation was so unreal. I felt as if I was hallucinating. No matter how many steps I took, and no matter how much Sam barked, I didn't seem to be getting closer to him. Stifling the panic yell, I closed my eyes like I had before. This is when it all started. Maybe I had fallen asleep after all. Maybe I was dreaming. But when I opened my eyes, I was met with a set of lifeless ones in return. A gaunt, pale-looking fellow stood before me, their eyes cloudy and white, blind, their thin hair and wispy, their hair thin and wispy, their skin translucent and yellow. What the fuck? Scrambling, I took a few steps back. I tried to create as much space between myself and a stranger. As my eyes settled on their feet, fragments of what they used to be shoes stuck to their ankles and toes with fresh and dry blood, their skin blistered, raw, and shredded. Their left foot was much worse than their right foot, with sections of bone exposed on the end of the toes. Oh my God, sir. You need help? The words barely left my mouth yet. Another gust of wind sent a new plume of fog to sweep the men away. To my left, I heard sobbing. With intense worry, I turned towards the noise. The cause of it was a young woman stumbling about and shielding her eyes, while bare feet left a trail of blood in her wake. Ma'am? Again, the fog came. It swept her away too, like it had the man. And it was then that I realized it was sweeping me away too. All the while the red streetlight grew brighter and brighter until it became unbearable. Were these people lost? Was I lost too? Would I become something like them? Heaving in desperate breaths of air, I struggled to come up with some sort of logical conclusion to this mess. There had to be a cause to what I was seeing. But when a third person appeared in front of me, I ran. I didn't know what else to do. I need to find my truck and leave as soon as possible. Sam. My voice tore from my throat, sounding harsh and ragged, but there was no response this time. I was alone. Now, with tears streaming down my face, I wandered around, arms extended, hands grasping. All I wanted was to touch the familiar metal frame of my truck and lock myself inside. Shivering from head to toe with a thick layer of sweat coating my skin, I pressed on. There was no telling how long I walked for, whether it was hours or days, but all that drove me was desperation and rage. Rage to get out of this suffocating red light. It bounced off the fog, bombarding my eyes from every angle. It became so intense, so bad, that my retinas began to ache. That's when I closed my eyes, promising to never open them. That didn't work. The light was so intense it burned clear through the back of my eyelids and to my brain, searing any sense of sanity I had left. I was stuck in the middle of nowhere, wandering, weak, tired, and blind. I would die here inevitably. Still, my legs moved until they couldn't anymore, and I was left in a crumpled heap upon what I assumed was the road. Fog devoured me like a flesh-hungry beast, and part of me wanted it to win, to consume me, to put me out of my misery. It must have sensed my desire because a wet, slobbery tongue raced across my cheek, hot breath dancing across my face, and I knew I was a goner. It had finally beat me into submission. That stupid red light had finally won. Then a soft, gentle bark resonated in my dying ears, and the greatest sense of relief I had ever felt washed over me. Sam. Now, I'm not too sure what happened next. All I know is I regained some form of consciousness in a blurry white room where instant beeping bombarded my senses. I could barely make out a set of wires dancing along my arms when a door eased open. In walked in someone decorated with a lab coat. "Ah, you're awake. How are the eyes?" they asked, their voice gentle but prying. "I can barely see," I rasped, my throat feeling like it was full of razor blades. "I see. Well, we can get our traumatist in here shortly." I didn't let her finish. "What happened?" I demanded, aware of the doctor setting a blanket across my midsection. I had a vague sensation of coldness racing along my toes. "Officers found you miles away from your car, clear into the next county. You were missing your shoes," the doctor explained, pausing as if debating whether they should tell me more. Truthfully, I didn't remember losing my shoes. "Your feet were shredded. You needed skin grafts in the coming days to help you heal. Your dog is the one who led the police to you. When they found you, they said you were rambling about a red light." All I could see was the bright red light searing into my eyes. I couldn't look away no matter how hard I tried. We stared at each other even as the plume of fog rolled in to consume me, smother me, kill me one mile after the other as I walked aimlessly in the red-colored silence. It was here, with me in this hospital room. I could feel it, the same impeding dread and doom along with the same red, glowing eyes. It wasn't going to leave me alone. No, not now, not ever. "Sir, calm down. You're safe." The doctor's voice was muffled in my ears, mixed in with the sound of quickening beeps. She called out for help. Her voice filled with panic and fear. I felt it. People rushed around me, poking me, prodding me, but all I could see was that light, bloody and red like my feet. Of course, the doctors and police got talking with another after that. They said I had some sort of psychotic break, that I would drive and its effects carried over into my hospital stay. That stress of my parents had triggered something in me. That being tired and driving hadn't helped. That something deep within me snapped. They wanted a psych evaluation of me to help me, but it didn't matter. Ever since the doctor said those fateful words, all I could see red. You see, it never left, never faded, not until I made it. They told me they couldn't save my eyes. That was fine. I didn't want to see that damned red light anymore. But no matter how many times I told my story, no one believed me. Not the doctors, not the psychologists, or anyone. I know what I saw. I lived it, and I have the scars to prove it. Maybe you'll believe me, maybe you won't. Just listen to me when I tell you this. Don't drive in the early hours of the morning. Don't waste your time at a red light like I did. Run it. Run it and don't look back. A ticket is a lot less pain than gouging your eyes out. And if you do stop at a red light, and stares at you a little too long with a little bit too much intensity. Please don't get out of your car. An anglerfish, it knows when to capture its prey. Knows how to keep it locked beyond the seat of teeth, unable to leave without help. It knows how to devour you slowly. Those red lights, the traps, and if you aren't careful, the fog will find you, just like it found me. I see. Well, we can get a Otrodamus. I need to Google that word. Holy shit. Electrical. 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 Electrical.